What's going on? That shit's supposed to be done before we start.
What's going on?
Amateur hour.
Well, that's okay that it's amateur hour because we are a level below amateurs, doing the best we can with what we got. It's pretty stressful.
That's right.
Once again, little things that we don't expect to get messed up before we start aren't working. But hey, no one else can really tell. Jake's trying to mess with lights that no one can see, but which give a little ambience to the studio. Jake Krantz.
Got the third mic. The third mic.
Or is it the third Jake? Like he's
third wheel?
The third mic.
Third wheel. Third wheeling.
Look, I'm just here to press buttons, but
yeah,
even that was difficult today. Having a little problem with one of the cameras. I'll keep working on it in the background while you're doing your stuff.
That's all right.
I probably won't be here the whole time though.
Who are you anyway?
Jacob Krantz.
Welcome.
Thank you.
You're the man.
All right. Dragged him in here. He was reluctant to come in here. Do we cough it? You better put a mask on, bro.
I don't have COVID.
Yeah, we all were blowing out our snot before we started.
I just drank water.
Do you know how heavily this show is tested?
Tested
We're tested all the time for COVID.
We test every time we walk in the door.
In this studio. Good show. We got a good show. Boys, we got a good show. Number to call in, 845-366-2095. If you're not checking shit, you can call in, 845-366-2095. We're going to be talking, what are we talking about? We're going to talk about what a lot of people, in this area anyway, are concerned about is the youth sports, Kingston area sports. There was a board meeting. We're going to talk about that. We're going to get into, a little bit later in the show, a little Johnny Damon, some other baseball things. We had 500,000, is that right? 500,000 COVID deaths in the United States today. Cuomo open show.
Is there anything big going on in sports?
I mean, there's off-season stuff. There's a hot stove. There's contracts being signed. Humongous contracts being signed. Crazy deals going on.
Jake, what's going on in your community of teenagers right now with sports? Anything?
No, nothing.
Got nothing.
All right. Good talk, Russ.
Hey, I went and got outside this weekend. Went snowboarding for the first time in over a decade. Took the kids up to Whiteface, just outside of Lake Placid. And it was fantastic. The conditions were great. The weather was good. Look, it was 18 degrees, and you would think that's cold, but it wasn't. It was sunny and fantastic facility. I'm regretting that I haven't taken the kids more often, and they both enjoyed it, and I'm looking forward to doing more of it. Until the snow melts. And
Zero interest in snowboarding or skiing.
Really, you don't have any interest in
No.
winter sports yourself? What about handing down that type of tradition to your kids? And
There is no
letting them learn
tradition
how
to hand down. I don't go.
Wait, this is on Facebook and YouTube?
Yeah, man.
Is the first time you're on YouTube?
No,
well?
God,
we're rocking.
no. Don't you watch the show?
Yeah, what's
Don't
up
you
with that?
follow the show?
When I'm not here, I'm doing schoolwork.
That's true.
Well, we're on YouTube
But by the
and
way,
Facebook.
4 to 5 hours a night of schoolwork. It's completely ridiculous. So here's this. Teachers are now giving work on the snow when we had snow days. And look, they had the remote day today. And when you have snow days, you go on the Facebook pages and everybody's crying and complaining that there's a snow day. And then they cry and complain, why can't they teach remote on snow days? Now they're teaching remotely on a snow day, and everybody's crying and complaining about it.
What are you talking about? Who's crying and complaining
Just
about there being a snow day?
People on whatever Facebook groups my wife was talking about, people are just complaining.
Wait, is this something that you saw? Did you see people complaining
No,
on
my
Facebook?
wife saw it.
Oh, okay. So you have heard secondhand from someone that people were complaining about there being a snow day. But today was a good snow day,
Yes.
meaning it was snowing pretty hard between 10 and 4 o'clock.
Yeah, so people are mad that there was a snow day, but now they're teaching remote, where in the past they're like, why don't you teach remote on snow days, and then you don't use the snow days, but then when you do, people are complaining that because there's a snow day.
All right, wait, just hold on one second. Back up for a moment. Here in Ulster County, and more specifically in the Kingston City School District, we're on a hybrid program where sometimes the kids go to school and sometimes the kids stay home. But the teachers have all been going to school every day. Now, We had all of our snow days used up before the end of February, so the kids were going to lose spring break days if there were any more snow days. What was the solution?
What?
I was just bringing people up to speed because they have no idea what you're
Well,
talking about.
the solution was to not. There's other districts were doing hybrid learning on snow days. So they're hybrid in school, like half in school, half not. But then on a snow day, everybody would be home, and there would be hybrid. There would be, kids would still, they wouldn't lose snow days. So Kingston was not doing that. If you had a snow day, you had a snow day, right? Then
A lot of schools are doing that.
a lot of schools were doing that. Some were going the other way. Then once Kingston used up all their snow days, it then became, well, now we're going to do hybrid learning on the snow days, and teachers will teach from home. The problem was this week is that they announced it on like Friday or Saturday, and then there was a snow day today, right? The first day back. So, my wife went into school to teach because she didn't have things at home because she wasn't anticipating this happening. So they announced it after school was out on Friday. So then when there was a snow day on Monday, people were just unprepared. Why wasn't that discussion had weeks ago? So when this happened, they were prepared, and then teachers could be prepared. But what happens in this school district is they just don't seem prepared for anything. They don't think ahead. We're going to talk about that with this whole sports thing because
I think they announced it either Friday or Saturday that in the event there were future snow days, they would be considered remote.
Correct.
So the teachers knew either Friday night or Saturday, which still didn't give them enough time to get to their schools and get their materials to bring home. So today they had to tough it out, I presume.
yeah.
Teachers had to come up with a plan of what to do with their kids for one day. So I think they probably were
But it's just
able to do that.
The constant complaining by people in this area about teachers and the school and just constant crying. It's like constant. It's one thing, then the other, and then they argue the other side the following week that they said they supported. It's just like people just want to battle and argue everything. I mean, this kid gets 15 hours of homework a night. I mean, he's on the computer till midnight.
You're on the computer until midnight?
And now you have teachers.
Around there, probably like 10.
Yeah,
You're taking a lot of
every
hard
night
courses.
10, and then there's sometimes he's on there later, and then teachers that were not supposed to give homework or they're not supposed to do tests or anything on snow days say, listen, if there's a snow day or not, you have to do this test. And it's like just because you can give a test on Saturday or a test on a snow day doesn't mean it's a good idea. I mean, it's just because you have the technology and the ability to make an assignment due on Sunday, to make an assignment due on Saturday, to make kids come in and take a test on a snow day. By the way, there's teachers that are making kids come into school, get on the computer before school starts to take exams, which
I
is
didn't even
complete
know that was
bullshit.
allowed.
Yeah.
Because can you imagine our teachers coming into school before their contract asks them to come into school?
Well, I'll tell you this, you will have teachers that would be like, I'm not doing anything. I'm not coming in before my contractual time, and I'm leaving here right at my contractual time.
Well, if that's the case,
But they're making kids come before school. So if you have a class first and second period, let's say you have physics first period, you have to come on and take the test before class, and then you have the class first period. Because they don't want it, a lot of teachers don't want it taken away from their instruction time. The problem is so what happens when there's regular school? You're going to make kids come in it. What would you do if there was regular school?
and your opinion counts.
No, it doesn't.
Oh,
What's your
What was that, Jake? We heard a noise.
this thing's annoying me.
Anyway, so let's just get right into it. I want to start off. So we had Vinny Lawrence on, who's a school therapist or physical therapist for physical therapist. He's the athletic trainer for Poughkeepsie schools, and they've had a couple games, boys and girls. I wanted to kind of get an update and see how it went for the week as far as the COVID with the high risk sports in Poughkeepsie. And he sent me a text. And he said, we had a couple girls' games and boys' games last week. It hasn't gone too bad. The biggest issue we've probably had is having to do health screenings on a large group of athletes if they arrive around the same time and where to put them while they wait for the bus or if they have the next game, since someone has to disinfect any area that is occupied before anyone else goes there. So after 1 week, probably 3 or 4 games between the boys and the girls, you have to his biggest problem is not really the spread of COVID or COVID really as of right now so far. It's just being able to handle, 16 players show up at the same time, right? Just doing all the screening and getting all the protocol in and the temperatures and all that kind of stuff, which lead me into, you saw, and they're talking a lot about this when we were together the other day, about the board meeting.
I went back and tried to see what was in the newspaper, what was in public documents that would give me an education on why is it that the Kingston City School District is not engaging in winter sports, at least not those including basketball, wrestling, and cheerleading, because I do know that swimming has been going on, which is great. So I go, all right, what happened? Where's the answer to that question? Why isn't Kingston playing? And, the answer is not clear. There's really no public advisory document that's been published in the newspaper or from a governmental entity like, the health department or even the school district that explains why they're not engaging in basketball. I'm just going to use basketball as an example. So I went back and saw in the newspaper that it was in January that the governor, and then floating down to the county and local health departments, they had approved winter sports like basketball in New York State. In other words, the COVID guidelines from the federal government trickle down to the state government. If you follow those recommendations, you can play winter sports right here in Ulster County. You just have to find a way, the way that our guest did. And look, you have some authority that decided against it. What was that authority? And what was the issue that they couldn't get past in order to get sports here in Ulster County? So hold up that microphone to that TV for us, all right? So what was the issue? The issue was, can you play sports?
As you all know, a week ago Friday, the governor approved the startup of high-risk sports for schools in New York State. The governor then put that onto the local county departments of health to come up with guidelines and also make their recommendation. The Ulster County Department of Health has presented and provided us with guidelines for safety around high-risk sports, and the Department of Health has approved high-risk sports. The next part of that process is our approval or not to approve high-risk sports.
That makes a lot of noise, Jake.
Yeah.
Trying to make it so much noise. Hopefully we still have sound. You said check the sound, Nick?
Yeah.
Our sound is out? That's a bummer.
Oh, it's gone.
Now do we have sound?
Yeah. Somebody just must have deleted the comment. So
Okay, it's
It's at the
possible
sound.
our sound wasn't working.
what was that clip?
All right, what was the clip I just showed, right? Well, the clip was of our Kingston City School District school board, and the school board was to decide whether to allow interscholastic basketball and other sports.
Yeah.
And they say, that was our superintendent of schools saying, look, it's up to us. It's up to us to decide. And they were
When he
gonna-
says us, he's talking about the board.
He's talking about the board, okay? And how do
I've worked with our attorneys, we've worked with our medical director. Obviously, there is a lot of different opinions about this, a lot of different beliefs about this. As I told before, the Department of Health here in Ulster County has approved. Our medical director does not agree with that approval, and he recommends that we do not participate in interscholastic.
So he's saying so what he just said is who did not approve it? The county?
So the county health department approved winter sports. The governor has approved winter sports. You hate Cuomo? He approved winter sports. He's like, go get it done. Go get it done
Still
on a
hate
local
him, but
basis.
okay.
All right? The man said, go get it done. Your local health department indicated, you can go get it done. Now, I'm not saying they did it with a rave review or they were celebrating that you must do it or it's the best thing since sliced bread. But the health department, I understand, said, yeah, you can go and get this done. The superintendent has just said the medical director was against it. I don't know who the medical director is. If I'm just a parent sitting at home.
The school district medical director?
I don't
The
even
county
know.
medical director? See, just so everybody knows, I did not watch this, so
Yeah,
I'm kind of just.
who's the medical director? That's what you're asking, right?
Yeah.
So you're like, what is the medical director, and who's the medical director? And so I'm like, yeah, I want to know that too. So what I learned is that the medical director is this gentleman, this physician named Walter Woodley, vice president, medical services, regional medical director of the Mid-Hudson Valley. All right. So this physician working in conjunction with the school district, he's the medical director of the Kingston City Consolidated School District. He said no. My basis for saying that is what you just heard the superintendent say.
Yep.
Superintendent of schools says, governor said yeah, local health department said yeah, our city medical director is against it. So now, along that backdrop, he says, let's take a vote. All right, people, let's take a vote. And so
Oh, boy.
you're like, okay, you're a person on the school board, and you've just heard your superintendent of schools tell you that a medical doctor has recommended against it. And now you're asked to talk about it, table the issue.
Now, here's the thing though. If you have 4 medical directors and the state leaders that said yes, this is fine, and then one guy says, well, I'm not so sure, and then they vote no, right? So are you taking the stance because you're voting because maybe you heard the news you wanted to hear? Oh, it's too dangerous. We can't do it. Right? A lot of people said it's okay. There's other districts doing it. One medical director said we shouldn't do it. What science, what facts, what people are we willing to follow? It's Randall has the same medical director, and the rumor is that he will not approve football for us. No football. That's on Roundout. So,
I'm just letting you finish your statement.
yeah. So, I mean, what
I believe me, I can rant more.
is it? Is it people looking for the news, right? Is it they're looking for the facts and the news that they want to hear, right? That's like when I say people watch CNN or people watch Fox or MSNBC because they're getting the news that validates what they want to believe to be true, or are we? I don't know. So what else was there? So they voted. So you said they
before they voted, they round tabled it among themselves. These individuals who are voted elected officials, all right, these are moms, these are dads. They have jobs in the community. Some have kids in the school district. Some do not. They're probably all very good people. I've listened to them over the past few months. I've watched the videos on YouTube when they post their school board meetings. So I listened very carefully to this video and watched it carefully to see what it was they discussed. And I will be critical because I did not hear the board discuss data.
I'm sure all lovely people doing good things for the community. Did a lot of them just talk forever and about nothing?
For starters, I would say that everyone should go listen to the February 3rd, Kingston City School District YouTube video and hear for yourself the statements made, the methodology of the meeting, and you decide for yourself whether the ultimate vote was one based upon science and data or emotion.
Now, I did hear one, and I heard maybe, honestly, about 30 or 40 seconds of the actual round table at one point. And I did hear one of the board members say that I think she's not able to visit. You know, she stays home. She's not able to visit her kids or grandkids or whatever. So she was basically, from what I gathered, she was voting no because she doesn't go anywhere and visit anybody.
Let's assume what you just said is true, Nick.
I'm saying that broke in and out. Like, I don't know if that.
Let's
I don't want to.
assume what you just said is true.
Yeah.
That one of the board members gave her personal anecdotal experience that she stays home and isolates herself and hasn't seen loved ones and is nervous or has fear, and therefore she doesn't believe it's appropriate or safe for kids to be in close proximity to each other.
Yeah.
Because they're at higher risk or are at risk. Look, I believe that's what I heard too. All right.
Okay.
And I don't think that that's science. I don't think.
That's a reason. I don't think that's the way you should vote.
Yeah, exactly.
On other people's lives.
Because I felt the way you should be voting was, hey, if you can follow the CDC guidelines as prescribed, that your governor has said if you can do it, then do it. That's the methodology that you should be applying, the scientific methodology of, can we meet the guidelines that are being followed by our guest from last week, whose name escapes me.
Vinny.
If Vinny's explaining that in a budding school district across the river, they're following guidelines and getting it done. What I wanted to hear from the school board was, can we follow the guidelines and get this done? I did not hear that. What I heard was, and I said it earlier, emotions, people having fear. They were forthright. They seemed very credible in their own beliefs, but I didn't hear them ask. I didn't hear anybody ask, hey, what did Dr. Woodley say that led him to say no?
Now, I'm going to tell you why that happened, why nobody asked. I've been to a couple of these board meetings, okay? I've wanted to run for the Board of Ed a while back, a couple of years ago. Amy wouldn't let me. She's like, you can't do it because you get me fired, okay? I've been to a couple board meetings. Let me just tell you my experience at some of these board meetings. Now, I don't think anybody actually that's on this board was on the board back then when I went to a couple of these meetings. But let me just give you the mentality a lot of times of this board, and it's probably a lot of boards. Could you talk about facts, right? Like vote, like making a decision based on facts. Nobody asked, scientifically, why can't we do this, or can we do this, or can we logistically handle this? So I went to a board meeting and the superintendent was talking, and he was talking about when they were selling some schools, right? When schools were up for sale. And there was one particular school in a neighborhood. So there was some chatter around, and, I was listening to the people around me as he's talking, and they're talking about selling the one building, the one school that's up off of Foxhall. I forget which one that is, Mahar or something like that, maybe. Anyway, so I had a question. I raised my hand, calls on me, and this isn't actually about the board, but these are the answers that you get sometimes. I said, are the people in the community going to have a say in who you sell the school to? Because a lot of people bought houses in that community because it's in close proximity to the school and the neighborhood. Are they going to have some sort of input? Basically, if they're for or against who you're looking at selling the building to, and Patalino, the superintendent, says, well, we're not going to sell it to a strip club, and then went to. So why would you not
thing.
nobody on the board
Maybe
thought
those
to
ones were
ask
broken too. That's why they had to close the school.
because of the Zamboni.
Yeah.
Nobody thought to ask, hey, can we get one from the other school and bring it over? Like that's a $10,000 to $15,000 expenditure.
We lost sound for a second, so maybe people missed out on your Zamboni story. But basically, I think it ultimately, they get the gist. Nick, what I would want to get back to after that.
Well, hold on a second.
Oh, you're not done.
Yeah, no, I got one more.
All right, man.
George Washington School, somebody donated these clouds, right? And what they were is you put them up and they muffle the noise, right? So it takes down on the echo in the cafeteria.
Listen, everybody missed your story about the Zamboni.
Well, then I'll tell it again at another time. Call me.
Real quick, 10 seconds or less. You went to a school board meeting. There were some discussions about a Zamboni.
They wanted to buy a $10,000 Zamboni, and the board voted to replace the Zamboni at like 15 grand when they could have just brought one from the school they were closing and brought it over instead of buying a brand new one.
And
Nobody ever thought.
And they said that they had Zambonis at every school.
They said they had Zambonis at every school, and they were closing 2 or 3 schools and selling them. But then instead of bringing one of those pieces of equipment to the other school, they just voted to spend 10 grand and buy a new one. Right? So nobody asked the question, hey, nobody kind of thinks. And this one really bothered me with the clouds. So they had these clouds. They were going to vote on, the board was going to vote if they should have the janitors install them or if they should hire an outside vendor to come in and put these things up. So the board votes, right? And they all vote unanimously to hire this outside vendor to come in and install these clouds. I'm sitting in the audience. It muffles the noise. So in the cafeteria, it's not as echoey and stuff like that. Okay. Half hour later, one of the board members asks, I just want to go back to that. What are that we voted on before? What exactly are the clouds that people?
Wow.
This is by the way, you actually voted to spend money on something you had no idea what it even was. There was a part of me that almost stood up and was just going to yell out loud, "You have to be kidding me." At that point, I wanted to run for the board because it goes to this, is that nobody asks questions. They just vote. They just vote things without any facts, without any reason, without any asking questions, without even knowing what things are.
All right, let me stop you because the perception that you're describing is probably true, but factually, we don't know if the board members are well informed. That's the sad part. I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt that they are being given information and materials to read in advance of that were provided. So I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt that they were provided with materials to read. Maybe those materials described what Dr. Woodley had explained, but as a parent and a member of the community and watching the school board meeting, I didn't hear a summary of what Dr. Woodley had said. I did not hear any school board members comment on the underlying basis for why Dr. Woodley had recommended against sports. And ultimately, it was clear that it was Dr. Woodley who was voting no and had influenced these board members. Hold up that for me, will you?
Get right up.
Okay, and that this is really the advice of our doctor, with Dr. Woodley. He suggests that this is the safest way to go.
That was his recommendation, yes.
And he does not think that interscholastic sports are a safe way to go.
He felt he was very clear about that, yes.
Well, he said it was the safest way to go.
What do you do with that information, though, when you are a member of the school board and you're being given a recommendation by a healthcare provider with over 25 years of experience, and that healthcare provider who is tasked with the role of being the medical director for your school district is recommending to you as a school board member that he's against going forward with these sports? It puts a lot of pressure on each of those school board members to have some autonomy. So yeah. I'm sympathetic to them, but I'm critical of the lack of information at the meeting that would provide parents the basis for why Woodley said no. And I think that's what's missing, because following that board meeting, that's when social media in the circles that I swim in was just blowing up.
Now, they said the safest thing to do is not to have a season. Yeah, The safest thing is always not to have a season, pandemic or not, because
Well, the safest way to not get COVID is just never leave your house ever either.
yeah, I mean you could exactly. You could never leave your house. The safest way to do it is not
The safest
play.
way to not get in a car accident is not to drive a car.
Yes. He's right. By the way, when you play football and Deet Stadium is packed, you have a better chance of breaking your neck playing football as a scholastic athlete than getting COVID. And I'm not a doctor, but I would also venture to guess that it's probably a higher chance you would get seriously injured playing football than getting COVID, bringing it home, and somebody else contracting it and dying.
What's the real outcome of this failure?
my opinion.
The real outcome of this failure to provide an outlet for sports for kids is this. Some folks would say that you're disenfranchising an entire group of kids based on socioeconomic status. And
That's a good point.
there's a reason why I say this, and that's because there are plenty of physical contact sports going on right now, all winter long, indoors, in private facilities that cost a lot of money. And you have kids playing basketball at camps for private funds where their parents have the ability to pay for it. You have lacrosse indoors. You have field hockey indoors. You have girls softball indoors. Tournaments going on in adjacent states. It's happening now. And who doesn't get to play but the kids who don't have the opportunities and the resources to play on those clubs and those teams? And yet the school district can't find a way to either play interscholastic ball, intramural ball, or practice. And I think that's really a failure. And they need to do something better. And I don't understand why that you couldn't even resort to practice squads. There are workouts that are available. I'm not familiar with them even going on. Now, my kid's not a basketball player, but let's assume that he wanted to try out for basketball in the early part of February, and then he finds out that there's no interscholastic team and there's no intramural team, but there are workouts. I haven't heard anything about workouts. They could have had the JV and varsity team try out, let them practice, let them do individual drills, let them stay socially distanced. But I'm saying there's a choice. There was a choice not to do that. And that wasn't even part of the vote that was voted down by the school board. The school board was voting down interscholastic or even intramural play. But they could have still had some type of practices. And they chose not to. And I think that's a failure. And as a result, the kids that have the resources and the opportunities to play in private clubs are doing so. And the kids that don't have the opportunity or the resource to do it are suffering. And I think that's really sad. And that's all I have to say about that.
Well, yeah. Widening the gaps of the haves and have-nots was one of the comments, right?
Yeah. Yeah, it's true.
There's a couple comments and questions on here. Look, at the end of the day,
Wait,
yeah. What?
someone was kind enough to comment also that there are workouts for basketball. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And if that's true, that's great.
Now those workouts, what are they doing in those workouts?
I don't know.
Are
But
they playing?
I'm
Are they
not
playing games? Because you're not going to have these workouts and the kids are all going to be 6 feet apart.
It would be good to know what the definition of workouts are, because
is
if
this like-
workouts are simply going to the gym and lifting weights, that's one thing. But are they in the basketball gym, in the gymnasium, playing basketball, dribbling the ball, doing those drills, or not? And Donnie, what is the workout that's being done by football? Donnie Koljak was
Is
kind enough to
affiliated
put a
with
comment
school
in.
though, like officially
So,
affiliated with school.
Is
or
the
it
football
some
team
separate
running
thing?
plays? Are they doing drills, or are they doing workouts? Can someone define those workouts? And Andrea, can you call? We would welcome a phone call
So-
at 845-366-2095.
So-
educate us and educate the people that are listening.
So Jake asked a question. Go ahead, Jake.
I said, why do you keep turning my mic down?
I didn't turn it down. Go ahead. We could hear you. Kenny just steamrolled you. That's
Right,
all
because I would like to hear from parents, not just from me. I want to hear other parents say, what is it that's going on?
No. Are they?
Are
So
they officially affiliated with school, or are they some separate thing that someone else is offering?
Well, the workouts are affiliated with school. These are coaches that are running workouts for sports. But if the workouts are simply going to the workout room and lifting weights, that's not a working out. If you're playing football, I want to see a kid do a down and out. I want to see kids get running plays. I want to see them suit up and play football. All right. And if it's basketball, I want to see them doing drills, running layups, taking 3-point shots, playing 21, doing something creative. My son was able to go to Tay Fisher's camp for basketball. It was great.
Andrea, can you hear us?
Yes, I can.
Who's on the phone, Nick?
Andrea.
Andrea from Kingston.
Nick.
Andrea from Kingston is on the
Fantastic.
line. What do you got? What's up?
Well, I wanted to talk about the workouts.
Yeah.
I mean, I have a lot to talk about.
I know,
You
I
know,
know. God, I
so
know.
the basketball workouts, the basketball workouts are affiliated with school. To answer Jake's question, they're run by Coach Kelder. Has been holding them out at Miller, and there is no contact. They're not allowed to scrimmage each other. They're not allowed to have any type of contact. But they are doing drills. They're doing agility. They're doing like skills work.
Yep. So
Hey, I think that's
And
fantastic.
football
What-
workouts, the football workouts that Isaiah has not been able to participate in, even though he is planning on playing if we play, that's more of they're doing the strength training, the weight, lifting weights at the Y, and then they go into the gym and they also do some footwork, agility, conditioning. Maybe might be the right word.
now, do you think, like, would you want them to maybe leave it up to the parents if they want their kids to play or not? Right. So like if you have if you have a high risk family member at home and maybe you don't feel comfortable with your kid playing, then maybe that kid doesn't play. Right? Because I think the general consensus is that they could try to do this and let the kids be able to play. Like would that be something that would be acceptable?
Of course. I mean, I think that really is one of the, I mean, you know how I am. I'm super nervous about the whole COVID thing and all of that. But at the same time, you know, there is a personal choice in it. So if I don't feel safe or comfortable with, you know, Isaiah playing in a sport because I'm scared he's going to get it or I'm scared he's going to bring it home to my mother or my father, then I have the personal, you know, the right to say, no, Isaiah's not going to play. But if other people can do it safely, then we should be allowing it. And places have been doing it safely. So again, it shouldn't be a question of, you know, can we do it? It's how do we do it? Like, how do we do it safely? How can we make this work for all of the sports? You know, because there's a lot of things that are coming into play, you know, in this, you know, some sports are playing, some are not. I understand that there's different risk levels, but again, there's the other places are playing. How can we make that happen here in Kingston?
How do you think we can?
Well, I don't know. I think that part of it is, at least from a lot of the articles and the data that I've looked at, it's not necessarily the sport that is spreading COVID. It's a very small, like minute percentage. It's the places where there are gatherings. So, for example, the locker room, the buses, right? So when I think of a football, you know, there's a football team traveling, you know, as a mom, that kind of raises that's like red flags for me. Okay, well, how are they going to safely travel? Well, they usually take two buses. One has equipment and one has kids. So now we just take those same two buses and we just distribute, you know, those things differently. We put, you know, half the kids on one bus, half the kids on the other, and we distance them by using their equipment because they have a ton of it, right? That's one way. So use the locker rooms, you know, come dressed in your pants, right? Like, let's not change. Or if they have to change, maybe, I don't know, linemen go in first and change, or, even offense and defense, right? That's cutting the team in half. But there's ways around it that we can do it safely. It might take us a little bit longer than normal, right? I mean,
Yeah.
the away game, instead of taking 2 hours, right, it might take 3 hours or whatever, because we have to take more time to implement the safety guidelines. But again, there's got to be a way, because
Yeah, I mean,
like you were saying before,
Well,
there's travel teams doing
what-
it. Like,
why do you think that these issues that you're discussing, these logistical issues that seem really realistic, they're practical issues to discuss, why do you think we can't even get to that level? In other words, we observed and heard with our eyes and ears, the school board voted no, and
Yeah.
there seemed to have been a lot of emphasis on Dr. Woodley's recommendation against it. So why do you think they can't get past that issue, and so that they can get to the real practical, logistical issues that you're discussing?
I don't know why. I don't know why that is how it is. I mean, I know that I'm sure that Dr. Woodley is looking at it right from his lens of a medical professional, right? I mean, that's his job, is to, I guess, keep us as safe as possible.
But is Dr. Woodley looking at this as just a broad, people are just going to be congregating in a spot? Because if he's looking at it like that, that's the wrong way to look at it, because statistically, and the science and the data has shown that the spread is extremely minimal in controlled environments like school, right? And there's a lot of sports that were going on. Now, I know it's not a big sample size, and it wasn't a lot of the contact sports, but I think the when they did the contact tracing, it was like 2% of spread was in sports. And don't kid yourselves, people. Kids were playing sports over the summer in New York State. Kids were playing in baseball tournaments and softball tournaments, and people were crowded together. They were playing in games. They were standing in dugouts. They were doing all that stuff.
People without masks, it doesn't like.
Yeah. So it's not that was going on, right? That was going on all summer. I mean, we played in tournaments. Honestly, we went all over. We went to Georgia. We went to Atlanta in July when Atlanta went back to phase 1 for a baseball tournament for a week. We didn't get COVID. We were careful. We wore masks. We social distanced. We did what we had to do, and it was fine. Now, some people are going to say, you're a lunatic for doing that. But at the end of the day, I mean, I wanted my kids to play. We're going to be careful. We're going to follow the guidelines. And if you follow the guidelines, the spread is going to be minimal.
Well, that's the point. That's the point I'm raising. And until you get to the medical director and get an explanation in writing, a public statement indicating why he was against it, we can't even discuss the practical implications of playing. Because if he would have said yes, who knows if we could even meet the requirements of the CDC. In a way, it would have been easier if he would have just said, yeah, if you can meet the requirements of the CDC and open up safely with sports, go ahead. That would have put a lot more pressure on the school district to then look and see if they have the resources to do it. Andrea mentioned 2 buses, right? You mentioned at one point, one of your examples was, look, just have 2 buses. 2 buses means 2 bus drivers. It means more money and expenses.
Okay, now,
And
hold on.
wait, also, there was also a reference to, you have to test these kids. Who's going to test these kids? How often are they going to be tested?
When you say test, be clear what you're saying about
like,
testing.
like either a PCR test, a COVID test.
So you're going to test these kids all the time, because they're not
I
testing
didn't
in
say
any
all
other
the time. But the CDC guidelines were suggesting that players and coaches get tested. And so now you have to deal with the practical implications of how do you do that? Who's going to pay for it? Who's going to object to it? So it's easy for me at first to say, oh man, Dr. Woodley, what was he thinking? He should have just said yes. Maybe he was right to have said no. Maybe if he said yes, we wouldn't even be able to do it anyway. I don't know.
What are
But
the
we don't
reasons?
even get that far.
Yeah.
And I have not heard from anyone what Dr. Woodley's basis was. If anyone knows what his basis was, please share it in a comment. If anyone knows where he's made a public statement. Please point us to it, because I couldn't find one.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think they could figure out the buses and the money, because the county has a program right now, and I know a lot of the money was donated, but they have a program right now where they're giving, I don't know how many 1,000 people $500 a month to see for a year to see how they spend their money for some pilot program towards, doing the varsity and JV sports, and then you got the money right there. See, I'm good at finding, right? So finding the money, finding the money, right? This is what we're gonna do with, right? That's what my job is, right? So, we just find the money. Andrea, thanks for calling in.
Thank you, Andrea.
Your dad listens to the show too, so he probably heard you.
Okay, good.
Listen, I can't wait. What time is it? It's 7:50 and you called? Aren't you sleeping by now?
No, if you bring it up.
Huh?
I might turn into a pumpkin. I should probably go.
I'm surprised we just didn't hear like boom, 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 and you just fell asleep just during the thing. All right, Andrew.
I don't think
Thanks.
she had narcolepsy.
Hunter Street.
All right, Hunter Street. Bye.
Good phone call.
Yeah. Look, I understand. That's not fair. How about freshman sports? Well, look, at the end of the day, we can't. It sucks, but we can't be fair about everything. Not everything is fair. Freshman sports, you can argue you got 4 more years to play, 3 more years to play.
Wait, so what happened? So modified and freshman sports are canceled?
Well, a lot of these districts are just doing varsity and JV, right? And
Some
I think
are just doing varsity.
I think right now, honestly, at this point, I think winter sports is a wash, and I think what the district needs to do is start talking about the spring, so we don't get into April 1st and you keep tabling shit like they want to do all the time to just keep kicking the can down the road, and then now we're in middle of in April, and now we're going.
Well, we're in March.
Baseball?
We're in March in a week, and they're supposed to vote on whether to have the
winter sports,
football sports.
Well,
I mean, it's
and I think that's too late. Like, when are they gonna? They really should be getting it in place now. Their last vote was February 3rd, and again, I'm referencing the school board.
Yep.
They have not yet approved whether they're going to vote yes on the football, and then the spring sports are going to be pushed out to mid-April.
Yeah, we'll be in like June, and they'll just get around to voting. Should we have 3 baseball games? I mean, get ahead of the curve here.
Couldn't you use like some of the money from the modified in the freshman sports towards?
Were you listening at all? Because that's exactly what I said.
I don't listen.
What were
to
you saying, Jay?
My God.
I don't listen to what you say.
He just said exactly what I said.
Well, that was my idea. We just
I
had
know.
the same idea.
That's right. I read your mind.
Yeah, I don't pay attention to what you say sometimes.
I mean, look, a lot of people are saying it's insurance and cover your ass and stuff like that, and you get it to an extent, but other districts are doing it, and you're talking about high risk sports, and I would argue that and I know it's just it's COVID and it's different, right? You're going to say, but a lot of these are high risk sports anyway.
I don't even know if there were any other Section 9 schools that were doing it either, though. I haven't read that there are other Section 9 sports playing. So who would we play? If the vote was yes, who are they going to go play?
Amy said we all tune you out. Yeah, and to be clear, like she said, when we came back from Atlanta, we quarantined. Just so everybody knows. And actually, Abby missed a tournament because of the quarantine, so we did quarantine when we came back from Georgia. We have a little bit of time left. By the way,
just a few minutes.
Yeah. By the way, that is the most Kenny has ever spoke on this show ever. Dutchess County schools are playing basketball. Yep, that's Poughkeepsie. We talked about that. They've had a couple games, and I mean, so far so good. Right? I mean, it's only been a week. It's a small sampling size, but All right, the last couple minutes. Look, the Yankees, the Knicks are going to have fans in the building tomorrow. 2,000 fans in attendance. I don't know how they decide how those people are going to get in there, like who they picked. But 2,000 fans in attendance. Brett Gardner signs a 1-year contract for $4 million. You think that's a good move, Jake?
I mean, yeah, he's been playing well the past year or two. Do
you know how many people 2 and 3 years ago were trying to ship this guy out of town? And I fought against people saying, no, you have to keep Gardner. He's a leader. He actually is a glue on that team. That guy is a leader.
He's been
Right.
there. He's the only member since the 2009 World Series.
Yeah, and then look how he's played the last 2 years. Like you said, he's been lighting it up.
He's been playing better like in the past 2 years than he has like in the past like 6 years. Like before that, like he's been playing well.
Yeah. I think it's a good signing. I mean, you get a 1 year deal for $1 year deal for
And
$1
he's
million.
still fast in the outfield too. And like,
Yeah, I mean,
might
he
have
throws
a
the ball
weird-
straight into the
yeah.
ground, but other than that, he just throws. He's lightning out there.
Announcers still praise his arm though for some reason.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't
He
understand. They
probably
talk
throws
about
the
how
ball
he's got a
pretty-
great arm. Every time I see him throw the ball, he throws it 15 feet in front of him.
He probably throws the ball pretty hard. It's just
Yeah,
directly into the
yeah.
ground.
He's got to replace his divot when he's done. Like Jones said, roids. He does have a big ass head, Brett Gardner. He's got like a Barry Bonds type head, looking like, right. I'm not saying he's taking steroids because he should hit more home runs if that's the case, but whatever.
Hasn't he been hitting more home runs though?
I'm gonna give you, huh?
Hasn't Garner been hitting more home runs though?
Yeah. What are you trying to say, Jake?
I'm not saying he's taking
Okay.
roids, but
I'll
What
ask
are you saying?
Let me ask you a question. How much career money do you think Brett Gardner's made? His lifetime, his career earnings up to this point. How much money do you think Brett Gardner has made playing Major League Baseball? Total.
80 million.
Oh, close. Kenny, how much money do you think Brett Gardner has made in his entire lifetime playing baseball?
90 million.
78 million.
Damn.
Which I thought was
Close.
a guy like that you don't think would have made that much money. 78 million is a lot of money.
That was close.
78 million.
That's including the 4 million this year.
No. So, well, it's still two. You're still 2 million off.
Yeah, but
'Cause
now,
78
now
four.
I'm under though, and not the over.
Oh, that's how you want to play the game.
The game.
14 years for Fernando Tatis Jr., Jake. What do you think of that deal? 14 years. 14 years. Here's the contract. 14 years, $340 million. He's a restricted free agent after 2035.
How many is that per year? How much
That's an average of $24 million a year.
So
A $10 million signing bonus. So his signing bonus actually is stretched out. So that doesn't include his signing bonus. His signing bonus is stretched out 700 and some thousand for 13 or 14 years. So he's going to get the signing bonus of 700 and some thousand, an average contract of about 24 million a year. That's a bargain. I can't believe I'm saying this. That's a bargain.
if it will be a bargain if he continues to play this well, because if he can,
Well, Mike Raposa says he'll be worthless after 5 years. How old is he? He's like 22?
yeah, he's young.
Yeah, he's young. He's like 22 years old.
I mean, it's a huge contract for someone who realistically has not played many games.
Correct, but if he
In the major
if
leagues.
he just plays if he plays at this level for in the next 5 years, that contract is a deal because in 5 years, guys that will have less numbers than he will have 5 years from now if he plays the same are going to be signing $30 to $35 million deals. That's going to
just-
be a bargain.
You just gotta hope that he doesn't like stop like progressing and working like some people do when they get this huge contract.
Yeah, like you were talking about who was it for the Mariners?
Felix Hernandez. Like,
Felix
he doesn't-
Hernandez.
Like he got a huge contract and just didn't really work much. Like he performed really poorly in his coming years after he had that huge season and he got that huge contract and he just didn't play well at all.
And what were you saying? He would come in. He would come into
He would like do a couple bench presses and leave and
Yeah.
be done.
So Felix Hernandez signs a huge deal out in Seattle and then just basically stops putting in the effort. So we'd come into and this is, by the way,
And he gets lit up
this is from
for the remaining years.
this is from somebody that was in the organization. Okay, had said Felix Hernandez after he signed that deal, somebody that we know said after he signed that deal, he just pretty much stopped putting in the effort. He would come in and do like a couple bench presses and leave. Like he didn't care, right? And so he came into camp out of shape because if you're not willing to put in the effort when people are watching, you're sure in the hell is not doing it when people aren't looking. A-Rod's a good example of what? Of a bad contract? Yeah. We knew that was a bad contract because the Yankees gave it to him when he was older. Like if the Yankees could have locked A-Rod up at 23 for 14 years, you would take it.
Well, another one is Chris Davis. That's a really
Chris
bad
Davis is the worst contract in the history of baseball. They signed that guy to about to a gigantic contract, and then I think he led the league in strikeouts.
He went
and batted
what did he do?
200.
Didn't he go like 0 for like 50? Like
He started like 0 for 50. It was ridiculous.
he didn't get a hit
My
until
man-
like the 15th game of the season.
Yeah,
something.
he just was terrible, and he looks like Damon Schufeld, by the way, Chris Davis.
Exactly like
Yes, you could if you put Damon Schufeld and Chris Davis up, you think they're the same person.
if Damon Schufeld walked through Baltimore, he'd probably get like tomatoes thrown at him.
Yes, he'd sign 2 autographs and then get his ass beat. Yeah, the Chris Davis contract was brutal. But what I found interesting about this is, so he signs this contract, okay? And there's a company, he has to give 20, so listen to this.
We're listening.
There's a company called Big League Advance. So what this guy did, Michael Schwimmer, who's a former pitcher who only pitched 37 games in the major leagues in relief, he started a company that pays younger athletes early payments in exchange for a piece of all future MLB earnings. So when you're in the minor leagues, he advances you money in the hopes that you're going to make it, and then when you do, you have to turn over a certain portion of that back.
Well, I'm assuming he doesn't do this with the guys with like the number one.
No,
overall pick. He
exactly.
He takes gambles on people.
Well, he probably has the way I would look at this is doing you know how they do those Coventry Direct and all that, where you can sell your life insurance policy, right? And what they do is they send underwriters to see what they would do is they want to buy your insurance policy if you're not healthy. So it's the opposite of what the insurance company does. The insurance company underwrites, hey, you're healthy, we'll give you a great rate. These people come in via what they call viatical settlements. They come in and they have their underwriters go, wow, yeah, you're knocking on death's door. We'll buy your policy because they got to pay the premiums and they don't want to pay for as long. So I'm sure these guys have like scouts that kind of look at
Underrated guys who like would have
underrated guys,
potential or-
and they probably scout them out for a while and then they give them an advance. What's interesting though is
I'm assuming it's the younger guys too, like maybe like someone out of high school. Right?
yeah,
Like,
Tatis 22 years old by the way.
they did this with him.
Yeah, so
That's why would they?
So
he was, like,
Tatis-
really project.
yeah, so they went out to Fernando Tatis, and when they signed him, when they did this with him, he wasn't even the top 40 player or top 50 player in the minor league. So it's around 8% he's got to give back of his future earnings. So it's 27.2 million that's going to go back to this firm because they advanced the money, and it's a gamble because according to what I read, they don't ask for the money back, so it's not a loan. They're just they're gonna give you money.
So if he didn't make it to the major leagues,
He doesn't have to give the money back. So they come to you and they go, Jake, we're going to give you $5 million right now, or $2 million. But when you sign your future earnings, 8%, it's got to come back. 8%'s got to come back to us. So he's got to give them back around $27 million. So it says Big League Advance offers a minor leaguer $100,000 upfront for 1% of his earnings. That player can then decide to accept $500,000 in exchange for 5% or $1 million for 10%. So they're just advancing you money. And then you get the money back. They get the money back. So they gave him probably a bunch of money.
Well, when do you have to give the money back?
Well, think if they gave him as soon as he signs, right? They probably spread it out over the years, right? Because they probably wouldn't.
as
ask
soon as
for
he
it
gets
all.
to the major leagues, then they're like,
Yeah, I mean that deal. He's got to give him a bunch of money, probably over the next 12 to 13 years.
what if he doesn't make? What if he's in like What if he's in like AAA?
It's major league earnings, so
So you only have to pay him back if you
Yeah.
make it to the major leagues.
yep, that's not a bad deal. I mean, the player could decide to accept $500,000 in exchange for 5% or $1 million for 10%. So even if they gave him $1 million, they're going to get back $27 million. That's a bargain.
Yeah, well, look what it is if he doesn't end up going to the major leagues and you're down $1 million.
Yeah.
And then if you do this with 30 other guys, then you're down 30 million. But then the one big contract.
Yeah, you're hoping
you
to catch that one or two
But then
big
the thing
ones.
is, 2 big contracts would pay for them,
Yeah,
and a lot more.
yeah, and you just gotta hope.
You gotta
And you're
hope you pick the
really
right
that's
guys.
that's a huge gamble though, man.
But it's crazy because there's a lot of guys in the minor leagues, like hundreds and
Yeah.
hundreds of people.
I mean, I'm sure you're giving pitchers a lot of money. If you're a left-handed pitcher throwing 90 in the minors, they're coming knocking on your
Yeah,
door.
but
to
you
give
could
an
be like,
advance.
no, I'm not taking this because I already know that I'm going to the major leagues and I don't want to give you 5% of my earnings because I know.
But okay, but you then argued that the Tatis deal, you would take it if you're Fernando Tatis because tomorrow you can go out and get a career-ending injury. Isn't that the same? Wouldn't that be the same mentality of a pitcher going, shit, man, I could blow out my rotator, Tommy John. Now I got nothing. So it's risk versus reward, right? Would you
Yeah.
take the money?
What am I getting? Like, am I getting like, which one would I do? 10%, 5%?
You're getting $500,000. You got to give back 5% of all your future career earnings.
And I'm in the minor leagues.
You're in the minor leagues. You just got
What
drafted.
draft pick was I?
What?
What draft pick was I?
You're in the
What round?
You're in the 8th round.
Yeah, I'm taking it.
All right, you're in the 2nd round.
Yeah. Yeah, I'd take it still.
Okay, so
I'd
now
probably
you got your
If I'm number 1 overall pick, though, are they really coming to me?
no, because you brought more than that in a signing bonus.
Yeah.
They might still come to you because why wouldn't you? For them, it's a good. There's a bigger chance you're gonna make it. Here's another question.
A lot of number 1 overall picks though end up being busts. If you look in the past few years, number 1 overall picks in the MLB have been really bad. Like in the past decade.
Yeah. So, but you're not the number 1 all over pick.
Yeah.
Overall pick.
Well,
First round though, I still went in first round is, you're getting high money for that.
you're getting a pretty large signing bonus for first round, I'm assuming.
Let's say you get drafted. Let's say the scouts come, and you're gonna go in the 3rd round to leave college early. They're in the draft.
I think they made it shorter.
Yeah, because they contracted basically minor league baseball.
It was like a 40-round draft, right, or something like that.
It was crazy. Okay, so
and now it's like a 5-round. I don't.
I
even
think
know
it's
what it is.
let's say let's say
There's no
let's
way
say
it's
there's
5.
15. Let's say there's 15 rounds of the draft. You're going in the 10th round. Are you skipping college? Are you going into the major leagues, or are you going to go to college? Your 10th round draft pick out of high school.
I don't know. Because I would be so scared to get hurt in college or not play as well.
You wouldn't want to go to college to up your draft status. Forget about the education. You can always go back and get the education.
Yeah, I'm not worried about the education part.
Right.
I'm just saying I would be too scared to,
You don't want to
get
risk
hurt.
getting injured.
yeah, in college.
Yeah.
And then my draft stock goes down, or I'm not getting drafted at all.
But if you're 10th round, I don't know. I don't know. Luckily I was never in that. I was never in that situation. This is the hypothetical portion of it. It's all hypothetical. I'm sitting here talking shit about COVID like I'm a doctor. At least, I mean, I'm giving opinions about where the board should spend their money. I mean, yeah, it's hypothetical hypothetical everything.
You're a very hypothetical guy.
That's it. All hypotheticals. Does Drew Brees come back next year, or does he retire?
If I'm Drew Brees, I'm coming back.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
I don't want to end my career losing to Tom Brady.
Kenny keeps putting up this signal that we're done, and I'm just ignoring him.
Keep asking me questions.
So
Tom
Jake,
Brady did lose to.
so Jake,
did
what's
lose
the
to Tom
signing
Brady.
bonus? The signing bonus? Well, if you're in the 12th round, you might get like, I don't know, if you a couple $1,000. If you're in the first round, you're getting you're getting 7 figures. Probably second or third round, you're getting 6 figures.
First overall pick is probably getting it.
You're getting $1 million signing bonus. I
At least
mean,
$1 million signing bonus.
what's his name that broke his elbow in a bar fight for the Yankees? Brian Taylor got $1 million. So
That was a while ago, wasn't it?
I don't. Mike Raposa said, "Nope, retire. Retire from what? We didn't even sign yet." So Jake is a middle infielder drafted at a decent placement. Some jackwagon wants to prove he's all that and goes out of his way to show him who's boss while sliding into second. Tough not to take the money. It is tough not to take the money. Take the money, Kenny. What would you do?
I'm sorry, I was sleeping.
Okay,
But
so let's put it in terms that you could understand.
I don't care.
The Major League Lacrosse League comes to draft you in the second round with a $10 signing bonus. What do you do? Kenny, what do you do? Do you take the money or do you go back to Albany, Great Danes, and try to improve your draft status? Remember, you had hair then. What are we doing?
I don't have a comment. I don't know.
Jesus, he ain't even.
Sorry.
Yeah. Well, listen. I can't wait for this COVID thing to be over. I can't wait for spring to start. As we get closer. Had some conversations with Sal Guido down at Mariners to do some live shows. If we could put that together down there, preliminary talks, that would be awesome. Do something down there in the restaurant. Then actually have a third mic, and then people, whoever's there, can just come in and sit down. That's when it gets interesting, especially with baseball season. I'll be ranting, going crazy for baseball season.
I think
I'll be
definitely
here
in the
every
spring.
night.
I think
You get
definitely
4
in the
mics.
spring when they're outdoors, you'll be able to do some stuff outside for
You
sure.
can get 4 mics in here.
Oh, well, yeah, 4 mics.
Studio's
bring-
going to
you can
go
bring-
remote.
They're gonna go remote,
Outside.
baby.
You
Go
can
remote.
bring yours that you have at the house.
I can do it.
Huh?
You can bring yours that you have at the house.
Yeah, bring that. Got the 4 mics.
We
People
would
can
need
come
to
down and
put
try to
that
talk
in
shit, and
we
then
need to put
you know.
that in this, and then
What do you point? Oh, yeah.
We would have to
you
put
get-
2
now
on
you're
the
talking-
tripod.
Now you're talking technical stuff.
I'm just thinking.
But that's the kind of stuff that's in the works. I think that would be awesome.
Good night.
It's Kenny's bedtime. Kenny's bedtime.
See you next week. Come up with something to talk about.
That's right.
Folks, send us some comments. What do you want to hear about?
I'll just start calling some of you people out of nowhere.
That's what I do on my podcast.
Oh, you got a podcast?
You got a podcast?
Plug it real quick.
At France Podcast.
At France
Breaker.
Podcast.
Where do we
YouTube.
find it?
Breaker, YouTube,
Spotify. Google
Nice.
Podcasts. Anchor Breaker. Podcast, Radio Public, Spotify.
Yeah.
YouTube.
My rants on YouTube. Go to the YouTube channel at the New York Nick. I'm starting my everyday daily rant tomorrow. So you're gonna have to.
FRANTC.
You have to subscribe. See you, everybody.